Hey there, I'm Paul Rabelais. I'm an estate planning attorney in Louisiana. And in this video, I want to talk about who really needs estate planning services more, the rich or the middle class. So I'm Paul Rabelais. I help clients throughout South Louisiana get and keep their estate legal affairs in order. I've written a book. It's called Estate Planning in Louisiana, Layman's Guide. And here really to kind of dispel the myth that estate planning is for the rich, I'm going to give you an example. And first of all, I realize there's many different estate planning issues that need to be dealt with, and every set of circumstances is unique. Whether it's having to deal with, how you're leaving things to your family, whether you own a home or a business, and how you treat children and grandchildren, whether you do anything for grandchildren, who you designate to be the person to make decisions for you when you're incapacitated or when you die. There's a whole host of estate planning issues, but I'm going to really focus on just three that come up in just about every single estate planning conversation that we have: taxes, probate, and long-term care expenses. And I want to look at those three in comparison to estate planning for the rich versus estate planning for the middle class. And then you tell me if you think estate planning is really only for the rich. So let's call him Rich. Richie Rich, remember the old movie or cartoon? Rich has an estate of $8 million, and he does no estate planning at all. See, Rich is busy. He's busy on his sailboat. He's busy at the country club. He's busy running his businesses and doing what rich people do. And neither he nor his wife never engage in any estate planning legal services. And then one day, either Rich or his wife or both, they get sick and they need long-term care, and they spend $1 million over several years on their long-term care, and then they die. Maybe they die at the same time, maybe one dies and then the other, but after having spent $1 million. And then, since they did nothing as far as estate planning goes, there's going to be probably some significant probate expense, because they got properties all over the place, their money's scattered around in different places, so the kids have to hire lawyers to guide them through the court process. But let's say they spend, between the two probates in different states, let's say they spend $400,000 on probate expense. Well, if you just do simple math, $8 million is what they had. They spent $1 million on long-term care costs. They spent $400,000 on probate expenses. They were still left with $6.6 million. They had two kids. For Rich and his wife doing nothing to get their estate in order, each of their two children wound up with $3.3 million, not chump change. Now let's take a look at, let's call him middle class Max. Max worked his butt off over the years to get his house paid off. It's worth $350,000. It's grown in value, over the years. And Max also worked his butt off to save. Max and his wife were frugal. They raised their kids, then they saved through retirement, and lo and behold, they wound up with $700,000 in savings. Maybe it's in their IRAs or CDs or stock or whatever they have. Their liquid investments and finances are worth about $700,000 in addition to their $350,000 house. Now let's say Max or his wife gets sick, and they could get sick like that because of a stroke, or they could get sick, gradually over time, maybe dementia, or Alzheimer's, or maybe arthritis got severe over time. And whether it was quick or whether it was over time, they spent $1 million on long-term care expenses, nursing homes, other long-term care expenses. And, then ultimately, whether it was one or both of them, but just like, Rich and his wife, Max and his wife spent $1 million on long-term care expenses, and then they passed away. Well, Max and his wife only had $700,000 of liquid assets, so they were forced to spend every last penny on their long-term care expenses, and then they qualified for Medicaid after that, and Medicaid let them keep their home, but Medicaid then had a lien on their home, so after Max and his wife died, the two kids get a letter, hey, we realize, Medicaid realizes that your parents spent all of their $700,000 of life savings, but then Medicaid paid for $300,000. We have a lien on their estate. Y'all got to sell the house and give us our $300,000 that we spent. So then middle class Max and his wife, their two children, have to go through the probate process when each of them dies. Between the funeral costs and the probate expense, that wipes out all they had left was a $350,000 house. They owed Medicaid $300,000, and between the funeral expenses and the probate, that wiped out the other $50,000. So Max and his wife, their two kids, were left with $0. So you tell me what family could have benefited more from engaging the services of the right estate planning lawyer, put things in place at the right time so that all of that value, all of that home, all of that savings was protected. Would Rich and his family benefited more? They wound up with $6.6 million. Or middle class Max and his family, would they have benefited more? They started with $1.05 million and wound up with $0. So in the comments below, tell me your thoughts. But I think in general, the public out there is realizing that estate planning is not just for the wealthy. But I still hear the comment when somebody asks, Paul, hey, what do you do? And I just, say something like, I'm an estate planning attorney, or I help people who worry that they don't have a legal plan in place to protect what they have. Some of the comments I get back when I tell people what I do is they're like, well, that's for rich people, or I don't even think I need anything because I don't have a whole lot. So I want to really dispel that myth. In the comments below, you can give me your thoughts if you think estate planning is important for the middle class, or maybe share an experience. Feel free to hit the like button. If you want me to keep you posted on strategies that are available to you, you can subscribe to the channel, and we'll just take it from there. So I hope that helps. I'm Paul Rabelais. Have a great day.